We continue now at the top of Daf Memches Amud Aleph and Meseches Shevuos. This is Shevuos Daf 48a. On the previous summer, there was a machlokas amoraim. Let's say you'd have two sets of witnesses that contradict one another, and so we know that one of the sets of witnesses is a false set of witnesses, but we just don't know which one. So can those witnesses testify in other cases? And Rav Huna said yes, they can testify in other cases, and Rav Chisda said they cannot testify in other cases. And the Gemara now is asking a question from a brisa. The brisa says, Echad Omer Gavoa Beis Mardos. Let's say one of the witnesses says that, testifying about the new moon, that it's 2 plowshares above the horizon, ve'echad omer shalosh, and the other one says 3. Eidusan kayemes, that's close enough that we say that the edus, the testimony, is good. Echad omer gimel ve'echad omer hey. Now, if one of them says 3 mardos and another one says 5 mardos, that's already too different. So eidusan betela, so their testimony is nullified. Umitzdarfin le'edus achers, but they can join together for other testimonies, and it certainly seems like Rav Huna. And that's what the Gemara says. My lav, is it not le'edus mammon? We're talking about testifying in other monetary cases. Again, it seems like Rav Huna and not like Rav Chisda. And the Gemara says, no, maybe that's not what the brisa means. Amar Rava says, Hu va'acher mitzdarfen le'edus acheres shel Rosh Chodesh. It just means that one of the witnesses can combine with another witness. Let's say there's a witness that corroborates one of the two witnesses. They can join together to testify about the new moon, to have a lahu trei v'chad, because then it becomes 2 against 1. Ve'ein devarav shel echad b'makom shnayim. We don't listen to one if you have 2 witnesses. Rashi explains, Echad omer gavoa shtei mardos. One says it's 2 mardos. Gabe edus hachodesh tani. This is a brisa by edus hachodesh. They're asking him how high was the moon from the horizon. To give an estimate of that. Mardas malamid habakar. Again, mardas, that's used for the bakar, for the cattle. My lav, is it not? Mitzdarfin le'edus mammon kol echad mehen kosher l'hoid im eid acher be'edus mammon. Doesn't it mean to say that each one of these witnesses is kosher in a different case? Let's say a monetary case. Even though we know that one of them certainly is disqualified. And therefore the brisa would be a difficulty to Rav Chisda. And the Gemara answered, Amar Rava. Rava says, no, hachi kamar. This is what the brisa means. Echad me'elu mitzdaref imeid acher. One of these witnesses can join with another witness. Let's say a third witness comes along. Im yomer kamoso be'edus, that third witness says, like one of the 2 witnesses, they can join together. V'hainu edus acheres. That's what it means, edus acheres, a different testimony. Shenasis kasasu hamitzdarefes edus acheres liatzma b'chodesh zeh. That this new group that now they're joining together, they become a new edus for this particular new moon. Degloi milsa dekushta asid, because now it's clear that that witness who now has someone else saying the same as him, so it's clear that he's saying the truth. Shareza Messiah. This person is supporting him. V'havalei trei v'chad. It becomes 2 against 1. And the Gemara continues at the 2 dots. The Mishnah said, Amar lechenvani, if the customer says to the storekeeper, Tenli b'dinar peiros, give me a dinar worth of peiros, and then the storekeeper says that he was not yet paid, so the Mishnah said that the customer takes a shvua that he already paid and he does not have to pay. And then the Mishnah goes on to bring the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda that whoever has the produce in their possession, yado al ha'eliyona. And the Gemara now says, Tanya, we learned in a brisa, Amar Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda says, Amosai, when is this true? Meaning, when is it true that the customer has to take the shvua in order to prove, so to speak, that he already paid? That's bizman shaperos tzivur numunachin. That's if the produce is bundled in place before them, no one has possession of the peiros yet, Ushnei and Oren Alein, and they're both arguing over them. Aval hivshilon b'kupaso la'achora, but let's say the customer puts it in a basket bundled on his back, meaning the customer already has possession of the produce, then the customer actually doesn't even need to take the oath. At that point we say, Hamotzim echaver olav haraya, if the storekeeper wants to get paid, he has to bring proof that he was not yet paid. And the Gemara continues at the 2 dots. The Mishnah said, Amar l'shulchani tenli v'chulu. Let's say the customer went to the money changer and he said he wanted change for a dinar, and then he gets the change from the shulchani. The shulchani says that he never got the dinar. So again, the Mishnah says that the customer simply takes a shvua that he already gave the dinar, and that will exempt him. And again, Rabbi Yehuda says the shvua is not even necessary, because if the customer has possession of the small coins, and now the money changer wants to get the dinar from the customer, so hamotzim echaver olav haraya, meaning to say again, the customer is Yado al Holiona, because he has possession. And the Gemara says with Tzricha, now it's necessary to teach both cases. This seems to be an identical case of the storekeeper above. In both cases, in the first case, the storekeeper is saying he did not receive the dinar, and now in the second case, the Shulchani is saying that he did not receive the dinar, and it's the same halacha. The Mishnah is saying in both cases that the customer takes a shvu and then he's patur. And so now the Gemara is saying we need to have both cases, because iash me'inon hakamaisa. Let's say we only had the first case, the case with the storekeeper. So bahach ka amri rabbanon, Rabbanan. So we would say that in that case, the Rabbanan say a Shavuot is necessary, Misham depiri avidi demerakvi, because produce is something that spoils. V'keven demerakvi lo mashule, and since it's something that spoils, it's something that gets rotten, so he doesn't delay, he wants to give it right away, and so therefore the possession of the customer doesn't really help him. Avol mos, but when it comes to money, delo merakvi, that's something that doesn't go rotten, so why would he give the customer his change if he never got the dinar? You have more on the side of the customer in this case. So ema modu leila Rabbi Yehuda. So we might say that the Rabbanan, they admit to Rabbi Yehuda that in this case a Shavuot is not even necessary. The customer does not even need to take the Shavuot. And you can say the reverse. V'iyat mar baha. Now if we only had in the second case of the money changer, so baha kama Rabbi Yehuda, maybe it's only over there that Rabbi Yehuda says the customer has the upper hand. Aval baha ema modu lahu l'Rabbanan. But maybe in the case of the storekeeper, he would admit to the Rabbanan that a Shavuot is necessary, and so tzricha, that's why both cases are needed. And the Gemara continues at the two dots. The Mishnah said, "Kishem she'amru hapogemes ksubasa v'chulu," just like they say that if a woman blemishes, so to speak, her ksuba, then she has to collect with a shvua. So then the Mishnah went on to say, "V'chein hayisomim lo yiparu." So too, when it comes to orphans, they can only collect with a shvua. And the Gemara says, "Miman." Now, from who are the orphans collecting? And this was a Gemara we had earlier. The Gemara says, "Ilema milova." Now, if you're going to say that the orphans are collecting directly from the borrower, so avuon shakel below shvua. So the halacha would have been, let's say the malva would be alive, their father would be alive, and he'd produce a shtar, so he'd be able to collect without a shvua. Ve'inu b'shvua. Now you're saying that they're worse off than he is, and that they have to collect with a shvua. That would not make sense. And so the Gemara instead says, Hachi Kamar, this is what it means to say. V'chein hayisomim min hayisomim. Let's say the orphans are collecting from other orphans. So you have a situation where both the malva and the lova died, so then lo yiparu ela b'shvua. They can only collect with a shvua. And the Gemara continues, Rav u'Shmuel da'amri tarvayu. Rav and Shmuel, they both say the following. Lo shanu ela shemeis malva b'chayi lova. This halacha is only true if the lender dies while the borrower is still alive. Meaning to say, if you have a situation where the lender dies first, so now the heirs, the yisomim of the lender, are trying to collect from the borrower, and at that point in time, they will be able to collect even without a shvua. But then the lova dies, and they're collecting from the orphans of the lova, so then they're going to have to take a shvua. Avol meiz lova b'chai malva. But let's say it would be the other way around. Let's say the borrower would be the one to die first. So now at that point in time, the lender himself is trying to collect from the orphans of the borrower. The halacha is that if you're collecting from orphans, you have to take a shvua. So kvar nischayev malva livnei lova shvua. At that point in time, the malva is already obligated to take a shvua to the children of the lova. Now the nature of his shvua is a bari kind of shvua, meaning he's taking a shvua that he is certain that he is owed the money. The problem is that when he dies, when the malva dies, his children are not going to be able to take that kind of shvua. They're going to take a shvua that, as to the best of their knowledge, the debt has to be collected, and therefore, ve'ein adam morish shvua levanav, a person cannot bequeath an oath to his children. Meaning to say, if the malva has one kind of shvua that he has to take, and that shvua cannot be taken by the orphans because they don't have the knowledge of their father, so then actually they're going to be stuck, and they're not going to be able to take a shvua and collect. It's only in a situation the other way around. Again, it's only going to be in a situation where the malva was never chayiv a shvua. Let's say again, you have a situation where the malva died first, and so now the children of the malva are collecting, so then they'll be able to collect from the children of the lova and take that shvua that to the best of their knowledge they're owed the money. But again, it will not work if the malva already had to take a shvua because the lova died first. And the Gemara continues, Shalchua kamid Rebbe Lazar. So they sent this before Rebbe Lazar. Shvua zu mativa. He said, what is the nature of this shvua? And Rashi explains, Mativa lahafkia mimonam. In other words, what is the reason why the fact that their father had to take a shvua and they can't take the exact same shvua, does that really mean that they should lose their money? If they can't take the exact same shvua that their father was going to take, again in a situation where the lova died first and the father was going to take a shvua to those yisomim, so yishavu shvuas yarshin, so they should take the shvua in the way that normal yarshim take a shvua. Could go in shvua shalo pakadnu abba v'nolan, again take a shvua that their father never instructed them that this was already paid up, and so therefore, again, to the best of their knowledge, they're owed the money. So in other words, the question really was, why is it that they can't take a shvua just because their father had a different kind of shvua? And so the Gemara continues, Shalach lahu, he sent to them, that's actually true. Yarshin nishboin shvuas yarshin v'nolan. It is true that they could take a shvua, meaning to say Rebbe Lazar disagrees with Rav and Shmuel. He said, yes, the yarshim in both situations, even in a situation where their father had to take a shvua and they can't technically take the exact same shvua, so they'll just take the shvuas yarshim and they'll be able to collect. And the Gemara continues, Shalchua b'mei Rabbi Ami. They sent the same question in the days of Rabbi Ami. Amar, he said, Kuli hai shalchu lavi azli. You're going to continue to send us this question over and over again. If we found some reason, wouldn't we send it to you? And the Gemara continues, and Rabbi Ami does present an answer. Amar Rabbi Ami, rather Rabbi Ami says it works as follows. Hoel v'asal liyad, and since this question has come before us, Naaman bar Milsa will say the following. Amad b'din, let's say there was already a court case. V'meis, and then he died, meaning to say there was a court case, and the malva was already obligated through the court case to take a shvuah, and then the malva died. So kvar nischayev malva livnei lova shvuah. So at that point in time, we can say that the lender was obligated to take a shvuah to the children of the lova, and we'll say what Rav and Shmuel say: ve'ein adam morish shvuah levanav, and a person is not able to bequeath the shvuah to his children since they cannot take the same exact shvuah, therefore they lose out. However, says Rabbi Ami, lo amad b'din. Let's say there was no court case, v'meis, and then he dies. So in that situation, even though, again, technically speaking, the malva was obligated to take a shvuah in order to collect from the orphans of the lova, but there was no court case to that effect, and then he dies, so then Yorshin Nishboin Shvuas Yorshin V'Nolan. So then actually the Yorshim are able to take the Shvuas Yorshim and they collect, and that was Rabbi Ami's approach to the question. But the Gemara continues, Maskif lo Rav Nachman. Rav Nachman asked on this, Atu beidino kamachayvi leishvuah. What kind of logic is this that Rabbi Ami is presenting? Is it the court that obligates a shvuah? It's not the court that obligates the shvuah. Me'idna de shachiv lova. At the moment that the lova dies, at the moment the borrower dies, echayev le malva livnei lova shvuah. The malva is chayev to the bnei lova shvuah. So it doesn't make sense to make this distinction of Rabbi Ami. So Elamar Rav Nachman. So rather Rav Nachman says, Isa l'deravu de Shmuel. If what Rav and Shmuel is true, if what they say is true, so Isa, so then it's true. It's true across the board. It wouldn't matter if there was a court case or not. They would not be able to take the Shavuot. And he lessa. And if it's not true what Rav and Shmuel say, so then it's not true what Rav and Shmuel say, and they're able to take the Shavuos Yarshim. The Gemara says, well, Alma Mesafkale. So you see from what Rav Nachman just said that he seems to be in doubt. He's essentially not sure what to do in this case. But the Gemara says, what do you mean he's not sure? V'yamar Rav Yosef bar Menyume, but Rav Yosef bar Menyume says, Avad Rav Nachman uvda yachloku. That Rav Nachman actually knew exactly what to do in this case, and he said yachloku. He said the halacha actually is that they split the money. And the Gemara says, well, the devar of Rabbi Meir Kamar, when he said that, he was talking according to Rabbi Meir, meaning to say when Rav Nachman was in doubt whether we hold like Rav and Shmuel, that was within the Shita of Rabbi Meir. Within the Shita of Rabbi Meir, that we're going to say that they take the Shavuos Yorshim and they're able to collect. So according to that Shita, we're not sure whether we hold of Rav or Shmuel that they can still take the Shavuos Yorshim if their father was obligated a Shavuot. However, V'lei lo svirle, however, Rav Nachman himself doesn't hold like Rabbi Meir. Rav Nachman himself holds like Rabbi Yossi, that's Yachloku in this case anyway, and therefore he paskins Yachloku. And Rashi explains, Yachloku, again, Rav Nachman said that they split it in this case. Now, the machlokus between Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yossi, that wasn't exactly in this case, but it was a similar kind of situation. Rashi says, Gabe shneim chashudin. The case over there was, let's say, both parties are suspect, and so no one can take a shvuah. The dami aloha, that's similar to this case, she'en echad mehen yachal yishava, where they're not able to take a shvuah. And so the point over here is, alma lesa laha to Ravu Shmuel. You see that he doesn't hold of this idea of Rav and Shmuel, because he's just simply saying Yachloku. And Rashi continues, Aliba de Rabbi Meir ukimna le'el da amar chazra shvuah l'mekoma. According to Rabbi Meir, we said earlier that he holds chazra shvuah l'mekoma, meaning to say if you have a situation where both parties cannot take the shvuah, so the shvuah goes back to the original person who's supposed to take the shvuah, let's say by a situation of moed v'mixas, so the person who's being moed v'mixas is supposed to take the shvuah, but then he cannot take the shvuah, and so then Rabbi Meir essentially says that he doesn't have to pay in that particular case. That's the idea of chazra shvuah l'mekoma. And so over here also, within the shita of Rabbi Meir, we would have a question over here. You have a situation of a shvuah, and the shvuah cannot be taken. And so again, the question would be, do we hold like Rav and Shmuel or not in this situation? Meaning to say, do we say that they could just simply take the shvuah in this case, but they'll take their own shvuah, they'll take the shvuah as yarshim? Or do we say, no, there's a situation where there's a shvuah that they are supposed to be taking, but they cannot take that shvuah, because it's not the exact same shvuah as their father, the malva, would have taken, and so therefore they lose out, they're not able to collect. That's the discussion within the shita of Rabbi Meir. However, for Rav Nachman Avad Rabbi Yossi, Rav Nachman doesn't follow Rabbi Meir anyhow. Rav Nachman personally follows Rabbi Yossi, and so in the case, again, the situation, let's say, where both parties cannot take the shvuah, so he says Yachloku, and in this case as well, he would say Yachloku. And we will note over here that the Masoras Hashas does mention in other gears, another text, that instead of having the words Derebi Meir, you have the words Derebi Ami over here, in which case, the way you interpret the Gemara is simply that Rav Nachman was saying, according to Rav and Shmuel, if you're following Rav and Shmuel, it should be across the board. There should not be the distinction that Rabbi Ami made between whether there's been a court case or there has not been a court case. That's what the Gemara means, Ledevar of Rabbi Ami. He's responding, according to Rabbi Ami, that we're following Rav and Shmuel, don't make these distinctions. Either we follow Rav and Shmuel all the time, or we don't follow at all. But V'lei lo svirale, but Rav Nachman himself, he doesn't hold that anyhow, because he holds Yachloku. And the Gemara continues, Mesev Ravoshi asks a question from the following Mishnah Meseches Ksubas. This is going to be a question against Rav and Shmuel. Again, Rav and Shmuel say that if you have a situation where the Malva was chayiv to take a Shavuot and then he dies, he's not able to bequeath that Shavuot to his children. In this case, we're talking here about a Ksuba, Mesa, let's say she dies, Yorsheh Mazkir Nes Ksubasa Ad Esrim V'Chamei Shanim. Her heirs are able to mention, it means they're able to collect her ksuba for 25 years. Rashi explains the question, Mesa almana shelo gavsa ksuba. So we're talking here about a widow, she never collected her ksuba. Yorsheh mazkir v'toven v'goven ksuba, so then her heirs can collect the ksuba ad esrim v'chamei shanim for 25 years, mishameis bala, from the time that her husband died. V'imavru chafei shanim, but let's say 25 years go by, v'lo tavu, and it wasn't claimed, so hifsidus, so then they lose out. Tahachi tanan b'ksubas, here's what the Mishnah says in ksubas. Nose in Perak HaNose. Kolzman Shiba Beisavia. Let's say she is living with her father. Shalo Notla Mizonos Min Hayasomen. So she never took any Mizonos from the orphans. So Gova Ksubasa Ad Chafei Shanim. She has 25 years to collect her Ksuba. V'im Lotav, if she doesn't claim it Machalta, then she forgives the Ksuba. Katani Mias. Nevertheless, what does it say over here? It says Yarshin Govan Ksubasa, that her heirs are able to collect her Ksuba. V'al Karchach B'Shvuas Yarshin Yegvua Min Hayasomen. Now obviously what's happening is that they're taking the Shavuos Yarshim and they're collecting from the orphans. Afal Gav de Mis Lova B'Chayim Malva, even though this is a case where the Lova died while the Malva, the lender, was alive, the point over here is as follows. Shehu Meis B'Chayeh. What happened is her husband died while she was alive. So the case is her husband died while she was alive and she was owed the Ksuba. V'Nischayva Shavuot Yarshin, and so therefore she became obligated to take a Shavuot to his heirs. And then what happens is she dies and we see that they take the Shavuot and they can collect. Alma Horisha Shavuot Liyarsha. We see that her heirs, she's able to bequeath that Shavuot to them, and apparently they're able to collect. Again, that's the meaning of the question from the Mishnah, that Mesa, it says that if she dies again, Yarsha Mazkir Nes Ksubas Ad Esrim V'Chamei Shanim. They have 25 years, they can collect the Ksuba, apparently they can take a Shavuot, and this is not like Rav and Shmuel, even though she had to take a Shavuot, and now they're taking a Shavuot Yarshim, apparently they're able to take the Shavuot. And the Gemara continues and answers, Hacha b'mayaskinan. Well, here what is the case? Shenishba v'meisa. It's not exactly as we said. She actually was supposed to collect and take a shvuah, but she already took the shvuah. She just never collected. So in that case, there's no shvuah that needs to be taken whatsoever. She already took the shvuah and then she died. And so in such a situation, her yarshim are able to collect. It's nothing to do with Rav and Shmuel. And the Gemara continues, Tashma, coming here, another proof from Mishnah and Ksubis. Nasa Rishon, in the case over here, is let's say he married a first wife, Vamesa, and then she died. And then Nasa Shnia, he married a second wife, Vamesu, and then he died. So Shnia v'Yarsheha, Kodman liYarshe HaRishona. So the second wife and her heirs, they come before the Yarshe HaRishona, they come before the heirs of the first wife. Now over here as well, the assumption is that the second wife, she would have taken a Shvuah, and then her heirs are going to take a Shvuah. So apparently, again, you have a situation where she's able to bequeath the Shavuot to her Yarshim. And the Gemara again answers, Hachanami, here also, Shenishba v'Mesa. She already took the Shavuot, and then she died. So again, in such a situation, the Shavuot is not necessary anymore, and it has nothing to do with Rav and Shmuel. And the Gemara continues, Tashma, coming here, another proof from a Mishnah in Ksubis. The Mishnah says, Avol Yarshav, but his heirs, Mashabi and Osa, they can give her an oath, V'yas Yarsha, and they can make her heirs take an oath, V'esaboyin b'Rishus, and anyone that's coming with her Rishus. And Rashi here explains, Tashma v'al Yarsha mashbiyan osav es Yarsha, Reisha demas nisan, ba'akosib b'ksubas. The beginning of this Mishnah is in Perak HaKosib and Ksubas. It is as follows. Kasav v'lo neder u'shavua ein li alayich v'al Yarshayich. Let's say he says, he writes to her that you're not going to need to take a shvua, and your heirs are not going to need to take a shvua to collect the ksuba. So the halacha is, hu eino yachol lahashbiya lo osav v'lo Yarsha. So he essentially promised he won't make her take a shvua, and so she doesn't have to take a shvua, and her heirs also don't have to take a shvua. But the question is, let's say he dies, and now it's a situation of her taking the Shavuot to his heirs. So Avol Yorshav, let's say when it comes to his heirs, Im Mezhu, let's say he dies, Uvo Letovam Ksubasa, and now she's coming to claim the Ksuba, so therefore it's not him any longer, it's his heirs, Mashabianosa, so they are allowed to give her a Shavuot, V'yas Yorshen, they can give her heirs a Shavuot, Im Mesa, let's say for example she died, Ve'in Boin Ligvos Ksubasa, and they want to collect her Ksuba, and so here you see a situation of, again, her taking a Shavuot to his heirs, and her Yarshim taking a Shavuot. Umidakatani Yarshav Mashbianosa, from the fact that it says his heirs can give her a Shavuot, Alma Bidelo Nishba Askin, and you see we're talking where she didn't already take the Shavuot, so we can't give the answer that we gave in the previous two cases, and so therefore she did not yet take the Shavuot. V'katani Dinishboin Yarshav and Otlin, and yet it says that her Yarshim are able to take a Shavuot and collect. Ushma Minan, again we see from here Adam Morish Shavuot, that a person can bequeath a Shavuot, and again it's a question against Rav and Shmuel. And the Gemara continues and answers, Amar Rav Shemaya says, Litzdod and Katani, you have to understand the Mishnah disjunctively. Osa Ba'almona, when it says that she takes the Shavuot, that's talking in a situation where she's a widow. V'yarshen, when it says that her heirs take a Shavuot, that's Begrusha, that's talking when she's a divorcee. Rashi explains, Osa Ba'almona de Katani, Yorshav Mashbian Osa, when it says again that she takes the Shavuot because his heirs are giving her the Shavuot, Mesukma Afilu Ba'almona, that can be even by a widow. In other words, again, a simple situation where the husband died and she's owed the Ksuba as a widow, and so she has to take a Shavuot because his heirs can give her a Shavuot. Avol v'yes yorsheh de Katani, but the line in the Mishnah where it says that her heirs take a Shavuot, Muki la Rav Shmuel begrusha. So there Rav and Shmuel are going to say that it's specifically talking about a situation of divorce, meaning im girsha zeh. Let's say this person, this man, the husband divorced her, and so now she's entitled to the ksuba as a divorcee. Nischayev lo ksubasa below shua. So at that point, he's actually chayev to give her the ksuba without a shua. There's no heirs, meaning he doesn't have any heirs in that case. He is directly obligated to give her the ksuba without a shua. Sharei peturahi min haneder min hashvua, because again, this is a case where she is pater from neder and shua, as we said. Umeisa b'chayev. Now what then happens is she then dies while he's alive. V'yachar kach mesu, and then he dies. To have a meis malva b'chayelova. That's where the lender, so to speak, which is her, she's the one who owed the money, she died while the lova was alive. The moment that she died, she was able to collect money from him without any shvua whatsoever. Again, because she's collecting directly from him, because this is a case of divorce. Therefore, she's able to bequeath that to her children. But now, you have a situation again where her heirs are collecting not directly from him anymore, but from his heirs. So tzrich and lishava, so they need to take a shvuah, but that's not a shvuah that was bequeathed from their mother. Kedetanan, like we learned in the Mishnah, hayisomin and hayisomin lo yiparu ela b'shvuah. When orphans collect from other orphans, they have to collect with a shvuah, and again, that will not be a question against Rav and Shmuel. And the Gemara continues, Meisiv Rav Nasan bar Oshia. Rav Nasan bar Oshia asks a question from the following brisa. It says that the strength of the son is greater than the strength of the father, and we will continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Memches Amud Beis.